Let's start, please, by talking about the ULEZ expansion. It's come into force today. You are running for mayor in 2024. Would it be fair to say that you are running on an anti-ULEZ platform?
No, I should be standing on lots of platforms, but absolutely, certainly. With regard to the ULEZ expansion, I will stop it on day one of my mayoralty.
OK, can we just clarify, when you say you'll stop it on day one, you'll stop the expansion to the outer zones, or you'll stop the entire ultra-low emission zones across London?
The expansion, I've been very clear all along, it's the expansion that I would stop on day one.
And can you please explain your opposition to the expansion?
The expansion is just not needed. The original ULEZ was, and people, generally Londoners, were happy with that. They are also happy because they've got a lot of public transport options. In outer London, it is completely different. And my main opposition is, A, it's not needed. We can look at ways of reducing air pollution, and I've got a way to do that with a £50 million fund to target particular zones that could be problematic. But basically, I'm listening to Londoners, and Londoners living in outer London do not want this expansion. They've made it loud, they've said so loud and clear to Sadiq Khan, but he is just not listening to them. This is nothing but a tax grab to poor Londoners. This is a very, very bad day for London today.
We've heard from the London mayor. He's made it very, very clear that if this was a tax grab or a money grab, there were other ways that he could more easily do it. He's spoken today again, saying he could have expanded the congestion zone. I think it's interesting that you touched on there that the initial ULEZ scheme, this was a Conservative policy, and they were very clear. The Conservative Party were very clear. This was a way to clear up London's air. That is something that London's Mayor Sadiq Khan has remained committed to when he took over the mayorship. So how can you now be doing a U-turn and opposing a policy that is part of your own Conservative government's policy?
With the greatest respect, the outer London is a completely different offer, public transport-wise, to inner London. I'm not U-turning on anything. I understood why the original ULEZ was brought in. I do not understand why Sadiq Khan is not listening to Londoners and is trying to extend it to the outer boroughs of London, where it is absolutely not needed. So I'm not doing a U-turn at all. I have been absolutely clear from the beginning that it wasn't going to happen.
Ms. Hall, I want to ask you, do you know who Ella Kissy Deborah is?
Yes, of course.
And so what would you say to her mother, just to remind our viewers, she was the 9-year-old who died as a result, the first person in a coroner's report to have air pollution cited as a cause of death. This year has been the 10th anniversary of her death. Her mother has been campaigning for clean air. Her mother is behind the ULEZ expansion. What would you say to her mother and the mothers of children out there in the greater outer London boroughs who are concerned about their children's health as a result of poor air pollution?
Yes, I've said there's a £50 million fund I would put into place to target specific areas where there is pollution in outer London. Councils could bid into that for that money, but it is absolutely not necessary to extend the ULEZ right to the boundaries of London. It is certainly not needed, and it is certainly not wanted by Londoners. If you saw some of my emails from people that are desperate because they do not know how they are going to get into work. They do not know how they're going to survive with this extra £12.50 a day charge.
But we saw similar concerns when the ultra-low emission zone was first introduced. Those concerns proved not to play out. Actually, the compliance was very high. We've seen the results on air pollution in central London. It's had an incredible effect. The science speaks for itself. It's very difficult to see how you can oppose something that very clearly is giving Londoners clean air. So are you saying you're going into the 2024 London mayoral race campaigning on a platform where Londoners will have less clean air in the outer boroughs?
No, actually, if you look at TfL's own assessment, they had an independent view taken on the ULEZ. And this assessment said it would make little to no difference at all in outer boroughs. That was their own impact assessment. That wasn't mine. That was their own impact assessment, saying it would make little to no difference. And particulates, which are the very dangerous particles, if you like, it would make no difference at all. So I think people ought to look at the science around this. It will make virtually no difference whatsoever to put the expanded ULEZ into outer London.
You're saying look at the science there. Research has shown repeatedly from air quality experts from around the world that the ultra-low emission zone works. It works. It's been tried and tested, and it works. We also have information. These are facts. These are scientific facts. The coroner in Ella Kissi-Debrah's death has very clearly said she died as a direct result of air pollution. The science, the research, the facts speak for themselves. The ultra-low emission zone, whether it's popular or not, is effective at reducing air pollution, and there is a risk to life that's been very clearly laid out in London to especially children as a result of the high air pollution in these areas. It's very difficult to see how you can argue with those facts.
TfL's own assessment said, their own impact assessment said, it will make little to no difference whatsoever. The actual expansion of the ULEZ will make a massive difference to the hardest working families and ordinary working families who cannot afford to replace their cars. To them, it is a very big deal.
Mitchell, you're quoting TfL again there. I want to know if you really believe this. And actually, I want to ask you, do you think that we all as Londoners have the right to breathe clean air?
Clean air is an important issue, of course it is. But when you're
it's not an important issue. It's an issue of life and death for some people, and actually an issue of life and death for the most deprived in parts of London, in the outer boroughs. You're talking about the risk to finances for those who are most deprived. So it's not just an important issue. It is a matter of life and death, and again, that's scientifically proven.
Well, I won't dispute that with you at this stage. All I will say is his own impact assessment said it would make virtually no difference. I found £50 million within the mayor's budget that would be targeted to the areas where there is air pollution. I wouldn't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut, which in effect is what he's doing here. And it's just a tax grab. It's £200 million they are assuming they will get from this in its first year. That is a tax grab.
And I just want again to point out to the viewers who are watching that the London Mayor has pushed back on that. That's an assertion that you're making. That's not based in fact. And as he said, there would have been easier ways to make some money. I want to come back to the question, though. Do you believe that all Londoners have the right to breathe clean air? It was the mother of Ella Kissi-Debrah who said that, yes, they should. And right now, that is not the case, because you've got ULEZ, an ultra-low emission zone in the centre of London. You do not have it in the outer London boroughs. So on that question, do you, Susan Hall, believe we all have the right as Londoners to breathe clean air? Yes or no?
I believe that we've got the right to have a mayor that will listen to us. And people in outer London, Londoners, do not agree with the ULEZ expansion.
OK, can I just ask you to come back to Boris Johnson when he was Mayor of London? This is a Conservative policy launching the ultra-low emissions zone. I've got the press release right here in front of me. I'm reading leading health organisations, including Asthma UK, the British Lung Foundation, the Chartered Society of Physiotherapy. They've all voiced their support for these changes. The Conservative government, this is not only a Conservative government policy, have been fully behind it. They have quoted the science that this is something that saves lives, particularly children's lives. Why, moving into the mayor's race in 2024, would anyone believe you when you're now opposing something that was originally a Conservative government policy? You can see the difficulty here, right?
Why would anybody believe Sadiq Khan when he said 2 years ago that putting the ULEZ expansion into outer London would make no difference at all, and it would be better dealt with little area by area, which is exactly what I'm saying. Now he's changed his mind.
Well, it's arguable to say that it's you as a Conservative candidate that's changing your mind, because I'm holding the Conservative government press release announcing in glowing terms the launch of the ultra-low emission zone and the health benefits it will have for Londoners. Why are you now campaigning against a government policy that was your own party's policy. I've got the launch right here.
I'm campaigning against the ULEZ expansion. I am listening to Londoners. Londoners do not want the ULEZ expansion. I am more than happy to say, and I'm pleased that I have found £50 million to deal with specific areas. That's one way of dealing with air pollution in particular areas. It is absolutely a nonsense to put it in all over the outer London, that it will affect people very, very badly, and Londoners do not want this.
So you keep saying that Londoners don't want this. The statistics don't show that that is across the board. There is a mix. It's a very divisive issue. But more importantly, Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, has been very clear that the impact of the death of Ella Kitty Deborah at 9 years old as a direct result of air pollution, a 9-year-old Londoner who died, has been his motivation for pushing forward with the ULEZ scheme, which was originally a Conservative government policy. The children across London do not have the right to vote. Are you speaking for them when you say they don't want their clean air? And we come back to this issue. Do they not all deserve clean air?
I think you should be looking at the pollution in the underground, which we're constantly asking Sadiq Khan about. He avoids that situation like the plague. Perhaps we should be asking what he's doing about that, because I believe that the pollution in the underground is far worse, and that contains particulates, and it is particulates that are actually dangerous because they get into the bloodstream. So this is a far more complex issue than you are putting to us. At the end of the day, the ULEZ expansion, I would stop on day one of a mayoralty, which is what Londoners want. It's wrong to put it in the whole of London. It is correct to deal with hotspots that we have in outer London, and I've found £50 million to put in a fund to do that.
OK, and one final question for you, and thank you for joining us to have this debate. The ultra-low emission zone expansion has come into force. This has been tried and tested through the courts. Are you being a bad loser here and moving into the 2024 London mayoral race? Once again, are you saying you are running a campaign that is calling for Londoners in the outer boroughs to have more polluted air?
On day one of a mayoralty, I would put a stop to the ULEZ expansion.
Are you playing politics with people's lives when you make that claim?
Not at all. But you're listening to Sadiq Khan when he says it's not a tax grab. It is £200 million they have in the books that they're going to collect from poorer, hard-working families, charities and small businesses. It's a disgrace. I will stop it on day one.
I'm not listening to Sadiq Khan. What I'm looking at is the figures that show the deaths as a result of air pollution. Those are scientific facts. They have been proven time and again. The ULEZ zone has been shown to be effective in inner London. So we will see how this very divisive issue plays out. But the ultra-low emission zone is indeed come into effect and has been expanded. Thank you very much for your time, Ms. Hall.